Fareed Zakaria, GPS, CNN Sunday morning, 10 Eastern and Pacific.
But first, here's my take. America has had one more bad month for jobs, only 80,000 created last month. This seems a depressing piece of a pattern. Over the last 2 decades, U.S. economic recoveries have tended to be slow and jobless. In every recession from 1948 to 1990, jobs came back to pre-recession levels 6 months after the economy returned to its pre-recession level. But after the recession of the early 1990s, jobs came back 15 months later. After the slowdown of the early 2000s, jobs took 39 months to come back. And this time, it may take about 60 months, 5 years, for employment to return to pre-recession levels, according to an analysis by McKinsey. What happened? Well, over the past quarter century, 2 large forces have swept the world: globalization and the information revolution. They've lifted tens of millions of people out of poverty, helped make American businesses more productive, given us amazing goods and services at cheap prices. But these forces make it much easier to produce economic growth by using machines and technology or workers in lower-wage countries. Hiring high-wage workers, that is, workers in Western countries, becomes a last resort. Now, while one can't disagree with the data, there is furious disagreement over everything else. On one side are those, mostly liberals, who say the economy is suffering from insufficient demand. That is, people and businesses are not buying things. The only cure is for the government to step in, spend money, and create demand. On the other side, conservatives argue the problem is not weak demand, but obstacles on the supply side. Businesses and people would spend, this argument goes, if they were in an environment that encouraged them to do so. That means lowering taxes, reducing regulation. Now, in general, I accept the notion that a country needs to have a structure of taxes and incentives that reward growth. But beyond this rhetoric, what specifically would help right now? One of America's best businessmen has an answer. Fred Smith, the founder of Federal Express, argues that the key to job growth is stimulating private spending on capital goods and services. There is only one statistic that is almost 100% correlated with job creation, he says, and it is private investment in equipment and software. But what makes companies spend on equipment and software? Is it more orders from their customers or a better climate for business investment? Smith argues the latter. He argues that businesses could be given many more incentives to invest and create products. He wants to lower U.S. corporate tax rates, which are the second highest in the industrialized world, and the corporate tax only brings in 8% of federal tax revenues anyway, he points out. He supports more incentives for business to spend on equipment and software. These are all good ideas. The Obama administration has actually acted on many of them already. But if investment produces jobs, why not also increase government investment? Government investment in infrastructure is currently half of what it was a generation ago. President Obama should announce a growth agenda that combines incentives for businesses to spend with policies that also get the government back in the business of investing in bridges, highways, airports, other aspects of America's aging infrastructure. We need more investment in science, research, and technology to create the industries of the future. If the goal is growth and jobs, it can't hurt to try all the best ideas, no matter where they come from. For more on this, you can read my column in this week's Time magazine and on time.com. Let's get started.